Happy Wednesday. Welcome to String Theory, the show where you ask the questions and we try to give you the answers for all things stringed. I want to thank all of our partners, wonderful partners that have been, some of which have been with us since the very first show. Boucher Guitars, of course, G&G Music and Annie Ganesh, our friends at Levy's Leather Straps, greatest straps ever made. Fantasy Music in Halifax and Spring Garden Road. Steve McNeil, not the premier. K&K Sound, best pickups ever. Gallagher Guitars in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Recording King, Alvarez Guitars. Awesome. Chris Meikle and the guys at St. Louis Music, thank you. Yamaha Music Canada. Beautiful handmade guitars they've provided us for review. And James Martin Instruments in Ireland, who are currently getting a guitar to us. Very excited about that, so yeah, this is always a good Wednesday night, and I wanted to start the show off tonight because I get an email just before the show started, and I found it very interesting. It's from a gentleman named Lloyd Taylor, and he says he works Wednesday evenings and doesn't have time is not able to watch the live stream of this, and he gets home around 9 and wondered if I could answer this question. And it's a very cool question. So I thought, here we go. I'm going to do this because it's very interesting. His question has to do with guitars. He lists, here's the concept he's got. Guitars that have tone without volume. Instruments that have volume with no tone. Projection. Is projection the same as volume? And can these things be quantified, and do you have illustrations of these issues? Well, that's a really cool question. And as I've said so many times before in this channel at different times, whether it be here or in my reviews or whatever we're doing, guitars are subjective. But there is a quantifiable difference between instruments. And there's a massive difference between volume and projection and tone. They're three separate things. And the best guitars in the room are the ones who have all three. So that means that when you play the instrument, the shape of the notes is incredibly pleasing. No matter where you play on the neck, they sound warm, round, and fat. The guitar is loud enough to not only be heard by you, but somebody, in a 6-foot radius, the guitar should be floating on top if anything else is going on. And if you hit it, one of the functions of volume is if you hit it a little harder, it should have a spike in volume. It should be able to push that extra air out of the box to increase the volume at will if you need it. And then projection is when you're pointing the guitar at something and at a guy's head 20 feet away, and you play something and it hits him in the face. The sound waves are shooting straight out of the guitar, and this comes into play a lot with microphones. So when I play a guitar in front of this microphone, if it's not projecting very far, the microphone picks up less of it. So those are the three components, and a guitar that has all three of these things is a killer guitar. Now, here I'll just do one example of when you might find some anomalies in this. Tony Rice's guitar. Okay, we just lost Tony. If you're familiar with his playing, you're aware that 35 D28 Herringbone Martin guitar that everybody called the Bone was a supernatural instrument. But I can tell you one thing. It was the quietest instrument I've ever heard. It was so quiet. It didn't cut. It just didn't cut. It died in front of the guitar, had no projection. But the tone was unbelievable, and that's why he played it. And it's evidenced that it didn't have a great deal of volume or projection because every time you see Rice play live, he's got the microphone 2 inches from the sound hole. And that's the worst place you can mic a normal guitar, because it'll just cause feedback. But that old guitar, it died so close to the front of the instrument that it wouldn't feed back. He could push that thing right into the microphone, and it would just, all you'd hear is this beautiful tone. And so that's a great example of an instrument that lacks projection and volume, but the tone is so incredible that it makes up for it. So when you're looking at a guitar or buying a guitar or your own guitar you already have, you need to measure those things. You need to figure out, when I play this, does it sound really pleasant? Do I have a problem being heard in a room with other players? And when I play, does somebody across the room hear what I'm doing? And if I record, do I have to put the mic in a specific area in order to pick it up? Or can I just play the guitar anywhere around a good condenser and it'll go, right? So Lloyd Taylor, that's a wicked good question, and I couldn't ignore it. It was I saw the email, and bless your heart for, coming in 2 hours after the fact and watching the show every night. So here you go. Here's a shout out to Lloyd, and a fantastic question about my favorite subject. So the beautiful Ginger's in the house, of course. She's on the beer. I'm back on the coffee.
Make me sound like a lush.
Well, no, I'm proud of you, because I can't drink. I just can't drink anymore. Yes, my liver hurts, so I'm just trying not to, wear it out.
Spend a day at high school.
Yeah, oh yeah, exactly. She's substitute teaching. Oh my God, don't even get me started. What's the first question?
It's a super chat from Ian Rossiter.
Ian Rossiter, how you doing, buddy? Sorry.
He says, as a fellow Elixir user, have you noticed a weird decline in quality lately? Guitar and mandolin sets.
No, I haven't. But what I have noticed is, and I think I've mentioned this before, is I ordered a box of, or a half a box maybe. No, it was a whole box. So it took me a while to get rid of them. I ordered a box of Elixir Phosphor Bronze 12 to 53 that I've been using for years from Amazon. Okay? Now, you might think I'm crazy, but I've been using these strings for so long that I know exactly what they feel like and what they look like. I know what color they are. I know exactly what they look and feel like. They have a very unique texture and coloring to them. I'm going to tell you something. The strings that were in those envelopes were not Elixirs. I don't care what anybody says.
Weren't they too short, too?
Yes, they were short. They were almost too short to put on the guitar. They were the wrong color, and they died in 5 minutes. So while if I go to my local Long & McQuaid and buy them, they're the same as ever. But I can tell you that there is definitely counterfeit Elixirs on the market. I don't know how that's being done. I suppose anything can be counterfeited. But the packaging was legitimate, and everything looked normal, but the strings were wrong. Or perhaps, there's been things in the past in the music industry where there's been massive, massive mistakes made by companies that didn't get caught for years. And one of them, in particular, that makes me laugh a lot is Gibson built acoustic guitars for over a year with their bridges on backwards. And they didn't know it. And they didn't catch it until somebody started looking around and went, this is, what the hell? And it turned out it was one guy on the assembly line who didn't know the difference. And he was putting the bridges on backwards. They weren't facing the right way. They had the saddle slot, but it was in the wrong. The bridge should have been turned the other way. And this went on for over a year. So I suspect if you're buying Elixirs and you're buying them from a reputable store, don't ever buy them from Amazon. Trust me. And you're getting strings that don't feel or act like Elixirs. There's a good possibility that the factory packaged up strings that weren't elixirs by accident, because I'm pretty sure that elixirs are not made by Elixir. It's the treatment that Elixir owns. The strings, I think, come from another factory altogether. I think they're actually built by Diodario. So there could have been some massive mistake in packaging, and a bunch of strings went out in Elixir packaging that aren't actually coated or phosphor bronze or whatever, right? And someday we might find out. They might come out and say, "Jesus, we made a massive mistake. We had 100,000 or 1,000,000 sets of strings that went out that were not right." So, yeah, I absolutely, if you're having problems, Ian, it's they're either counterfeit or there's been a mistake at the plant over the last, and there could be, look at what we just went through in 2020. They're probably working on skeleton crews, like this happened last year for me, right? So you just don't know. You don't know what's going on, what could be happening. So, yeah, there you go, elixirs. I hope they come back to normal soon. Who's next?
We got super chat from Jim Hagan.
Jim Hegan, how you doing, buddy?
What's your take on Martin's Sigma guitar line, 1970 to 2007? I believe you had some history with the brand.
What does he want to know?
Your take on Martin's Sigma guitars.
They're not Martins. They never were Martins. I don't know what you know about that company, but I know all about it because I worked with them when they were purchased by a German distribution company called AMI, and that happened in 2011, I want to say, or long about, maybe it was, yeah, it could well have been. I don't know when it happened, but it happened around then, and. Basically, Sigma was the first, as far as I know, from what I've been told by some inside people, Sigma was the very first case of industrial espionage ever recorded in the guitar world. Some Japanese builders came over to Nazareth, Pennsylvania with a bunch of hidden cameras on them, and they took the factory tour, and they took photographs of everything in the shop, and even managed to get photographs of some of the schematics, measurements, and spec lists, and all this stuff. And the reason they did it, because they had decided back in Japan that they wanted to start building a product. They didn't know what product to build, and because it was, they started in I want to say, Jesus, I can't remember when they started. I think it was 1980. I can't remember. Anyhow, they decided they wanted to build guitars. So they said, what do we build? Well, let's build the best guitars in the world. So they went and found out how to build Martins. And they went back to Japan and built Martin guitars out of plywood. And so Martin sued them. And they said, when the lawsuit launched, they said, well, go ahead and sue us. What are you going to do? Come to Japan and sue us? You can't stop us from doing this. Which is true. They couldn't have stopped them. It could have, but it would have taken millions of dollars, and I mean, there was no remedy for Martin, right? So Martin instead said, why don't you go ahead and build them, and we'll market them here, and we'll call them Sigma by Martin. And so Sigma was introduced into North America by Martin, and until they failed and closed shop. And then were bought by AMI in the early part of the 2010s, or maybe late 2000, first decade. And they moved. This German company got all of the plans and all this stuff, and they bought it for next to nothing because it had just been abandoned. Like the trademark was even abandoned. Like they picked it up for nothing and said, we're going to build these guitars in the high-end shops in China, and that's what they did. And when they first came out, I was just blown away by them because they were really making some wicked guitars. And I actually wrote to AMI, and I became the first clinician and endorser for the company in North America. And I worked with them through the Coast Music here in Canada. Sharon Green is still a close friend of mine, until it all just fizzled, as most companies do. Most companies that are doing like factory work, factory building, they don't have a ton of budget for promotion, like hands-on promotion. So there's only so long they're going to keep doing work with a clinician and doing in-stores and all this stuff. So I did it until it petered out, and then that was it. And I don't own any anymore. What I've seen recently from Sigma, the quality has gone way down. I don't know what caused that, but the initial quality, the first 3 or 4 years that they were coming out, man, you couldn't tell the difference between one of these Sigmas and a Martin. You really couldn't. It was amazing. It was just holy crap. Like, it was, and they were solid guitars, and they weren't laminate anymore. Some of them were, but the high end ones weren't laminate. And if you can get one of the early ones that came as just when AMI first bought them, like around somewhere between 2009 2004, in that 5 year period, if you can get a high end one like one of the D41 45s, or one of the limited editions that they came out with that were quite expensive in the first couple of years, you probably have a good guitar, but I wouldn't buy it sight unseen. It is a factory instrument, an Asian factory instrument, so make sure you play it before you buy it. Next, these are big questions right off the bat. You hurt my head.
Well, this one's easy. It's a super chat suggestion, so there's no thinking to be done. It's from Ted Whitmore. He says, "New song. Hey, Mr. JP, won't you sign my guitar?" Or Ode to Chet, as for episode 37.
Ode to Chet. Thank you for the super chat. Who's next?
We got a question from Larry Rindress.
Hey, Larry, how you doing, buddy? I'm getting your emails too, by the way, brother.
What do you think of the Carvin guitars? Joe Walsh says it's the best guitar he's ever played. Guess he hasn't played a Boucher yet.
Carvin. I don't know. I don't know. Something tells me Carvin was an electric guitar company when I was a kid. I could be wrong about that, but that seems to be all that comes into my head when I hear that name. Carvin. Yeah, they were electric guitars. I don't think they made acoustics. I could be wrong about that, but I definitely remember that name from when I was a boy, when I was a teenager. I had a buddy. Well, we all were into heavy metal and neoclassical metal, and Joe Satriani and Yngwie Malmsteen and all that. And my buddy played a Squier Strat, and I'm pretty sure one of the guys around town had a Carvin electric, and they were. I'm pretty sure. I'd have to check that out, but yeah.
You say they made electrics and amps.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Then I'm right. I'm remembering. It's been so. I think they're defunct now. But Joe Walsh played Les Pauls, so, and Carvins weren't Les Paul style. They made fancy like flying V's and crazy, shit like that. So I'm not sure why Joe Walsh would say that when he was such a Les Paul guy. Joe Walsh, one of the best guitar players ever lived. That guy, rock guitar players for sure. So yeah, who's next?
We got Wingfoot 48.
Cool.
How would you compare and contrast the two Yari guitars you reviewed?
Oh, well, there's no comparison. Except for the fact that they both will absolutely melt your face right off. And they blew everybody away in this room that saw those guitars. They just can't get over them. But individually, there's no comparison. One is a Dreadnought, and one is an OM. One is a Dreadnought with Adirondack and 50-year-old Honduran mahogany, right? The other one is an OM completely made of mahogany. The same mahogany, that same 50-year-old batch. So there's really no comparison. The necks are the same. The the aesthetics of the guitar are the same, but they're not the same in any other way. They're like the Dreadnought is, well, yeah, they're just not. It is only because of the body size, right? The Dreadnought is humongous and has this beautiful, rich bottom end, but the mahogany, the OM is humongous as well. It just doesn't have that Dreadnought bottom. It has this beautiful, bigger than normal OM bottom, like a Boucher does, right? Like this, the only guitar I've ever seen that I can even compare to Robin's work, because Robin builds OMs that sound like Dreadnoughts. That Yeri is an OM that sounds like a Dreadnought, and it's terrifying. It's unbelievable how much sound comes out of a small body guitar, and there's not too many people in this world that can build them like that. It's friggin' rare, and I love it because I love small body guitars now. I have for quite some time, and I have to keep going back to Robin. Robin is the reason that I love small body guitars, because although I own the Enola Gay is sitting right there, my Jumbo, and Boo Boo's a full-size Dreadnought, but all my other Bouchers are either OM or triple O or Parlor or triple O hybrid, like my signature model. So when I play those two Yeris, they're two different beasts, and I would use them for different things. Even though they can do anything, they have so much personality that if I was playing if I had to do a hard driving bluegrass thing, I'd play the Dreadnought. And if I had to have a really versatile thing that could do hard driving, but then also do fingerstyle or do open tunings and stuff like that, I'd grab the OM, right? So they're hard to compare. They're really hard to compare, and that's a good thing. That's what you want. There's no point in building two different body sizes if they sound identical. They're supposed to sound different, and these do. I'll tell you, it's just like Robin's, and like I'm sure, like I've got my Gallagher is a Dreadnought. It's a G70, but they're now building small body guitars, and I bet you any money that they sound incredible, but they sound nothing like the Dreadnoughts. But they have this. They probably have the same, the projection, volume, and tone, right? Like that's the common thread between all these great builders, is how they can coax all those components out of any body style they decide to put together. So, yeah, good question. Who's next?
3-Card Monty wants you to play the guitar you reviewed yesterday. Where is it?
It's over there in the case. Perhaps Ginger will fetch it for us, as one would. Whoops. Tearing the place up. See, this is what I mean too. Thank you, baby. When I reviewed that Dreadnought, the same thing happened. There was just a ton of questions about it, and people were blown away because, in this country, in this part of the world, we know about Alvarez. Alvarez are good factory guitars, and now they're making guitars that are bargain basement prices and still kicking ass. But you just never see very many Yeris. You just don't see the guitars that have the $3,000 and $4,000 price tag from this company, because they're rare. They're made by hand, and this guitar is just stupid. ridiculous. And those are the factory bench strings, uncoated, probably Diodarios on it. It's just an amazing piece of work, and I think belongs right up in the pantheon with all the other builders that I work with. It's you just can't beat it. It's stupid how good it is.
They want to know what it costs.
I don't really know. I think they're at somewheres around the $2,300 US. I saw one on Reverb that was brand new for sale. They're very rare. You can't find them. And this wood is at a premium because it's literally, they have one pallet of this. It's a pallet the size of your house, but they're just not going to be able to make guitars out of this forever. They might be able to run God knows how many, right? And plus they're so selective that not all of that wood is going to be chosen to put in a guitar. So, yeah, if you have an opportunity to buy one of these things, you should get it because they're just not going to be around forever. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. They're just one of those guitars that I would recommend to anybody. And if you love Boucher and you love all like guitar, it's a world-class instrument, right? So
Jack is in the fiddle case.
Jack is sleeping in the fiddle case. Good boy, Jack. And I'm so out of practice. I'm not playing at all anymore. I'm getting kind of depressed about it, actually. So I need a good slap.
Things you can do to. You have all these guitars. You can just.
Yeah, but I'm not coming up here anymore. So I just stagger up here to do this and hang out with you guys on Wednesdays. And
again.
There you go.
Personal choice.
It sucks to be me.
You said you need a kick in the ass. I'll provide it. Jeff Gallant has a super chat.
Oh, of course he does.
He wonders if he gets a theme song from time to time. He says a capo is not necessary, but a banjo is preferred.
I'll work on that for next week. The Jeff Gallant Hillbillies. The Beverly Jeff Billies.
We got Carol Dunfield. Have you ever experienced carpal tunnel? The carpal tunnel problem? If so, what helped you the most?
A knife.
A knife.
I had carpal tunnel so bad that I was virtually paralyzed from the wrist down, and had to go have surgery. And it's no fun. I had both hands done at once, but I had it done by a doctor that actually helped invent the surgery. His name was Winston Parkhill, and he saved my career because I was done playing. By the time I got to him, I couldn't hold a pick. I couldn't hold a cup of coffee. I'd pick things up and they just fall out of my hands. And the entrapment was so bad. So it's a very invasive, unpleasant surgery. It's they cut you from the middle of your palm down to below your wrist. And they pull all this muscle off the side, and there's a sheath that covers up the place where the nerve goes into your this side of your hand, and that's what collects all the calcium. The little calcium things are like skill saw blades. They're literally serrated, and so the nerve is traveling through that tunnel, rubbing on that calcium, and it's severing the nerve. And if you don't get it fixed in time, it never comes back. So I was just at the cusp of being done for good, and they just cut that thing, and it goes poop, just goes down your arm and gets absorbed, and then they sew you back up, and then there's nothing covering this at all. And it was a fairly quick recovery. It was 12 days in casts, and then I had 24 stitches in each hand, and but the day the cast came off, I went to the hospital to get the cast off. That night I played a 4-hour square dance, and with gloves on. I still had all the stitches in, and I had gloves with the fingers out of them. And I played like God. I just couldn't believe how bad my hands were before. I was struggling. And I was 27 or 28 years old by this time. And it's never come back. So I'm 102 now. So it's lasted It never came back. It can't come back because there's nothing there to catch it anymore. That's all. But they say it's good for 25 years, but it's been that long at least, and it's actually been that long this year. So I have not a single problem. So if you have it, don't bother messing with any kind of treatment. I did all of that. I went to the institute in Halifax that treats repetitive injury for symphony players, for classical musicians. I went through that whole thing for probably a good solid 6 months, going to therapy and physio and all this shit, and it just held it off a bit. And when it came back, it was worse than ever. So don't waste time. Just go get the surgery. I've had it. Jerry Holland had it on both hands. It happens. It's actually an occupational hazard for musicians, and mine was made worse by the fact that I also had what they call thoracic outlet syndrome, which is a binding of the nerves in the center of your chest from doing this for 20 years and holding 30-pound banjos, and that when that gets bound up, it ruins everything, right? So I had all of this, and when they released this, the other thing got better because I wasn't tensing up trying to play so much because my hands weren't working. So it alleviated a lot of the other problems as well, just getting that released. So yeah, don't fool around. If you're hurting, go to a doctor. Next.
We've got a super chat from Joe McGraw.
Joe McGraw.
He says, do you still talk to Marty Stewart?
I do not. No, I haven't talked to Marty in a long time. Can't remember when I last saw him. I think the last time I saw him was at a testimonial for Jerry Sullivan. I was down there visiting and played the show with Jerry, and Marty came down to that. And Marty's still pissed off at me because I quit Jerry. So he wasn't too nice to me that day. The last time, that relationship faltered greatly because I refused to keep working for Jerry for $75 a month. So Marty didn't think much of that, but fuck Marty. So he's one that talks sitting up in Nashville with $1 million, me living on Krispy Kremes and corn chips.
You would still live on Krispy Kremes and corn chips.
Yeah, but that's beside the point. I would have just had better Krispy Kremes, like fresh ones, not the stale ones.
The
I was
fancy
picking.
Dijon ketchup.
That's right. I would have been picking Krispy Kremes out of the dumpster outside of Long John Silver's, down from Marty's house.
Oh my God.
Sorry, Marty.
Oh dear.
He's probably watching this. Be knocking the door in the middle of the night. Mr. Cormier? Just, yeah.
What kind of gun was that?
One with a silencer.
Like a Nerf gun or something. Like rubber darts.
Yeah.
Oh dear. We got a question from Kellen Donovan.
Who?
Kellen Donovan.
Is that a new person? Maybe
I don't
not.
think so.
What is this question?
Oh, they say, hey JP, I have a no fret on my guitar just behind the nut. Doesn't sound too bad, but would I be better off if I take it off and move the nut back to where the no fret was?
Okay, so I'm going to delve into something that I'm not 100% sure of. Okay, so you're talking about what they call a zero fret. It's a fret that occurs. They put an extra fret that is right in front of the nut, and I don't know whether this is true or not. I've been told this. It's been said to me many times by different luthiers and different repairmen and stuff. But I've been told that the reason that there's a zero fret on a guitar is because it's built wrong. And the zero fret is a compensation because they didn't get the scale the way they wanted it. So, and I don't know if that's true because I've owned guitars with 0 frets on them, and somehow I don't really recall ever seeing the 0 fret have any use, right? The Because the strings clear the 0 fret. They're supposed to. They come over the nut and go to and the don't, like when you hit, you can't make that fret work because you can't fit your finger between it and the nut. So it's either useless cosmetic, or if it is in play, if the strings are going over it and touching it, which would sound like crap, I just can't see that happening. I don't even know. Like that's what I've been told. That 0 frets are an afterthought because there's a mistake in the scale of the neck. So whether they actually do anything or not, I personally have never seen them actually do anything. So you could probably pull that fret out and nothing would happen. You just have no 0 fret.
But if it's fixing a mistake, then wouldn't
But
it cause a problem?
But that's the thing, though. The mistake could just be cosmetic.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like if it wasn't there, the first fret would look abnormally long, right? So that's why they put the fret in there, so that it makes sense. So you don't have the nut and then this really weird long first fret, right? But as I say, the string shouldn't even be touching it because the nut is supposed to be higher than every fret. So I think you should look into it some more. I know that you'd always like this. It's just sort of a thing among guitar players where when you see a guitar with a 0 fret, oh, that's a piece of junk. You know, like that's just sort of the thing. I don't know if that's even true, but I know I would never even pick up a guitar with a 0 fret on it because there's no need of it. If the fretboard and the neck were the proper length, it would all work out mathematically perfectly as it's supposed to. And I've really only seen them on electrics, so you can't take any of this, at face value. What I'm saying, I think you should research it, find out from, whoever built the guitar, find out, research the company, see why they have a 0 fret, do some research and find out if a 0 fret even matters. It probably can be removed, but then you're going to have this really weird long first fret. It doesn't change the note because the note is the second fret. That's what makes your first note on the neck, is that the fret that's far from the nut. There's nothing happening when you put your finger on that string. It's not hitting that first fret. It's hitting, the real first fret. So, I don't know. Look it up. Check it out.
There's a couple people with experience with these, I guess. They said that the first had a 0 fret, that the fret functions as a nut because the scale length is too long. If the 0 fret were to be removed, the first fret would not be in tune.
Yeah, but
they're saying that the strings, a few people have said that the strings actually rest on the 0 fret.
Yeah, if they do, but I've
actually
seen
doesn't
guitars where they don't. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that you'd be better off to just buy another guitar that has a standard neck on it, right? And then because I guess they're kind of confirming what I'm saying, is that a lot of repairmen have said to me a 0 fret on a neck is a bad sign. It means that they built a shit ton of necks on a CNC machine, and they're the wrong length. So that's bad. That's bad. So I wish you luck. I would just go buy another guitar. Hell with it. Put that one up on the wall as a, it's a piece, because you don't see them very often anymore. To have a guitar with a 0 fret now is really rare, to be honest. And so, yeah. My first electric had a 0 fret. And I don't remember it doing anything. I could be wrong, but
Apparently
anyhow.
Chet played a Gretsch with a 0 fret.
What's that?
Apparently Chet played one.
It's a possibility. It's a possibility. And they would have changed it pretty goddamn fast because Chet went into Gretsch and redesigned that entire guitar. And if they were using 0 frets, he would have got rid of that in a heartbeat. He wouldn't have gone for that at all. Who's next? A good question.
I got a super chat from Tim Bennett.
Tim Bennett, I hope you're doing well. Way the hell over wherever you're at.
He's still in India.
Way to go, boy. Awesome.
Says, I want you to know how much we appreciate what you're doing. Have you ever played with Doyle Dykes?
I have played with Doyle Dykes, and Doyle Dykes is a great guitar player, but I not much for hanging around with him. He's a bit too religious for me. So, yeah, Doyle's a good player, but yeah, not, yeah. He's not the right person for me to sit around with. That's for sure. He'd have to go wash his ears and his eyes and get rebaptized and everything else. Just horrible, poor bastard. Who's next?
Devin Benoit.
Devin Benoit. Mm-hmm. Sweet.
Just ordered an RD328. Thanks for the great review in comparison to the D28. Why the K&K Pure Mini with 3 sensors versus the Pure Classic with 4?
Well, I think the Pure Classic is for gut string guitars. The Pure Mini is for steel string guitars. So this is the standard pickup that they make that I put in every single acoustic guitar I own. And there's 3 sensors is all you need. The fact that it has the word classic in it is probably an indicator that, because they cut their eye teeth in the early days doing pickups for nylon string guitars. And I believe there's 4 sensors on those. There's one that they're on the bridge plate, but there's another one in there somewhere. And they make the best of that as well. But this is all you need. This will make your guitar sound just like your guitar. And I've been using them for almost 20 years. They're the best pickup in the world. I wouldn't use anything else in anything I own ever but K&K. That's just the way it is. So hopefully whatever you put in there, you could put the 4 sensor one in. I don't know, maybe. But you don't have to. The 3 is enough. The Pure Mini is the best one. It used to be called the Country and Western Pure Mini. They've changed the names over the years too. So, yeah. Alrighty, who's next?
We got a super chat from Michael O'Coin.
Michael O'Coin.
Do you ever run across Jack White?
No, I don't know who that is. Should I check to see?
Partially Nashville-based, Cape Breton roots.
Never heard of him.
Mm-hmm.
Never heard of him. Sorry. I'll look him up though. Let me see about that. I'll make a note of this. Jack White. Never heard of him. I'll
White
find
Stripes?
out. What?
White Stripes?
No.
No.
Nothing. Sorry. Can't know everything, and I certainly don't.
Scrolling to be done. We got Eli Patrick Bluegrass.
Yes.
Who are some of your songwriting heroes, and what specifically do you like about their writing?
Well, damn it. I've answered this question before, but suffice it to say that one of my favorite...
What are you doing over there?
I'm just checking out my question. One of my favorite writers of all time, well, my favorite writer of all time is Gordon Lightfoot. And I love Gordon Lightfoot because Gordon Lightfoot. And yeah, that's about all I could say. I mean, I've listened to dozens of people, and Chris Christopherson, Leonard Cohen, Ian Tyson, Jesus, the Beatles, Lennon
I
McCartney.
didn't know Jesus played the guitar.
he does, and he's quite good. And yeah, that's sort of a question that's sort of loaded because that's all subjective as well. If you're a writer and you love writers, you could love anybody and have a particular reason for it that might not make one bit of sense to everybody else, but it makes sense to you because they're hitting your musical funny bone. They're causing a bolt of lightning in you when you hear what they do. So it doesn't matter who you are. You're going to end up emulating somebody initially if you're just starting out writing, or if you run out of inspiration, you can also go back to those people and listen to what they did, and let that work on your hopper of ideas. So yeah, it doesn't really matter who my favorites are. It's who your favorites are. And because where I might cite somebody I think is a tremendous writer, you might look at that and go, well, that's just shite. And you could be right, and you're definitely going to be right from your point of view, right? So that's the important thing, is to be, choose your own heroes and follow them down whatever rabbit hole you need to get your own creative, identity. That's the big thing. So anyhow, that's good advice. As long as you're writing, just keep writing. Yes.
Jonathan Sykes is next.
Jonathan Sykes.
Have you heard that Diodario EXPs are being discontinued? And what is your best advice for teaching people guitar? Sum that up in 1 minute.
Yeah, we don't have enough time for that. I don't use Diodario EXP, so that doesn't really matter to me. I don't even know. I probably have tried them. I'm thinking it's the one they're a treated string, but nothing beats Elixirs. So I mean, it doesn't matter if every other string company goes out of business, as I'm concerned. I know a lot of people love other strings and they're welcome to them and they have luck with them, but I don't use anything else but Elixirs. And what was the other part of the question? That was ridiculously going to be a long one.
What's your best advice for teaching people guitar?
I can't do that on here.
I'll
tell you what my best advice is. Go to www.mastermusicmethod.com.
Yeah.
That's my online school, and you'll learn exactly what to do to learn to play the guitar on that. There's no advice. There is, but it would take me 2 days for you to tell you what I would like to tell you, right? Ultimately, practice. Get off your ass and practice. That's the thing that comes across through more times in a week for me from people who are learning and people who are even on my site. You can't do anything without practicing it. So that's the key, is practice. And I don't mean playing around with it. I mean play until your hands are sore, till your fingers are sore, so sore you can't play. That's how much you have to practice to get good. So I hope that helps. But don't, if you have specific questions, that's the best place to find the answers. Is my online site. It's real cheap. It's $15 US a month. That's all it is, and you get access to everything on the site. All 4 instruments: guitar, fiddle, mandolin, banjo, with a lot of emphasis on guitar nowadays, because I think I have more guitar students than any other. So, and it starts from beginner right to crazy. So we try to put up a lesson every week or every 2 weeks, and there's a ton of stuff on there. So www.mastermusicmethod.com. I think the link is in the description of this video, I'm pretty sure. So who's next?
Bark Eater.
Bark Eater. Mm-hmm. A lot of roughage there.
Can you talk about guitar cases for air travel overseas?
You're talking to the wrong guy.
You got a flight case.
I don't like flying, and so I don't buy flight cases. And I have flown with I have flown with everything from plywood, bullshit cases to Calton cases, and I found no difference. If they're going to smash your guitar, they're going to smash your guitar no matter what it's in. It does not matter. So, like I said, from time to time, if I'm carrying a guitar that will fit in it, I have a Dreadnought Calton. But I've also flown with my standard tweed Boucher cases, and nothing's happened to the guitar. At the same time, I've seen guys with me on the road with $1,000 anvil case, custom made, right? And they get to the other side, and as if somebody put a fucking forklift tongue right through the middle of the guitar. What are you going to do about that? There's nothing you can do about it. So the best thing to do is just make sure you use a sturdy case. Don't loosen your strings. That's a wives' tale. Do not do that. And Calton, I mean, who can afford one? They're $1,000 to buy a Calton case, and they're way too much trouble for what they are. Hiscox is one of the best flight cases in the world, and they're not that expensive. They're $300 or $400, and there's a large number of cases now, and you can actually find them on Amazon, like Crossrock, and like there's all kinds of them. Just don't put it in a cardboard case. You can, all these cases that I use are all built in Canada. They're heavy-duty plywood cases. What are you going to do? You're taking a chance no matter what you put the guitar in. And there's a school of thought that I've been told many times by people that the more rigid the outside of the case is, the easier it is to break the guitar, because there's nowhere for the guitar to go inside the case if it's dropped. It's the force, if it's thrown out of a plane, it's just like the guitar hitting the ground, because the case is hard as a rock. There's nowhere for the guitar to go inside, and it hits the inside of that case that's like cement, and there your neck is snapped off inside a Calton. So yeah, don't be roped in by any company that says, well, your guitar will never get smashed. That's full of shit. You'll run over your guitar with a fucking tank if they want to, and they won't give you any money for it. So
Well, they will.
there you go.
I would say gate check is more important than the case.
Exactly. Ginger, a pilot. It's the absolute truth. I started doing it just recently because they made it law here, actually, in Canada. You're allowed to gate check your guitar. Don't put it on the belt. You take it with you. You get a tag, you take it, you give it to the people at the door of the plane. And it goes underneath in the front where they put the baby strollers and all the fragile shit, and then that comes up when you get to the other side and they hand it to you at the door of the plane. That's how you keep your guitar from getting smashed. I've actually seen people traveling with gig bags that way. They're not even a hard shell case. They just gate check it. It comes out the other side flawless, because they don't put it where it's going to get crushed. And they don't put it in the handlers don't ever get it. So there you go.
Do. They're the ones that take it off the gate.
Yes, but they're not the guys
belt.
Driving the thing with the forklift and the train and the.
They don't go on the belt and
they don't go on. Yeah,
they
never see the handling department.
Mm-hmm.
They just go down from the plane door to the belly right there on the stairs, and boom, you're out, right? Mm-hmm. So good point. I would have never thought of that, because I don't fly enough to care. I hate
We've
flying.
had lots of guys. We've had Ashley McIsaac came with his fiddle, but he just brought that on the plane.
Yeah, it's small enough to go in there.
Plaskett came in with his guitar, and he gate checked it.
Yep. So there you go. You got time for one more question, and then we're gonna have our question of the night.
I guess that's Bruce Fyander.
Bruce Fyander, back again for more punishment. How you doing?
F sharp 9th fret on my A string acoustic guitar with new or old strings has no sustain, like a dead spot almost. Any ideas?
Say that again. F sharp what?
F sharp 9th fret on my A string acoustic guitar. New or old strings has no sustain.
You need a fret dressing. That's probably what it is. You probably have a hump somewhere in there, or the fret is not making the proper connection in the fingerboard right there, which would cause it to have no sustain, because the string's not vibrating the neck there. It's just, there could be like there could be like a pocket under the tang of the fret inside. It could be accidental. It might have been a little piece of wood that get ripped out when they filed it. You just don't know. But you should get it dressed from the 8th fret up, and just make sure that that the fret's not loose, that the 9th fret's not loose or has a hole underneath it somehow, or any of those things. So that should fix the problem. It could also be a saddle problem, but check the frets first, because that's probably what it is. So we're going to have our question now. Tonight we have our 2 winners now. G&G Music, of course. You're going to get your set of strings and your winder and a Levy's guitar strap, and $400 off the purchase of any Boucher, or a free pickup, whichever one you prefer. And he's getting more of them in as we speak, because he keeps selling them so quickly he can't keep them. So that's a great deal from Glenn up in G&G Music in Antigonish. And our buddy Stephen McNeil, not the Premier, at Fantasy Music in Springgarten Road in Halifax, you get a free $25 gift certificate and strings and a winder, maybe. I think they're doing that still. But the coolest thing about that store as well, excluding the purchase of Boucher's, you go in there and buy and spend over $100 as taxes in. And another thing that's going on that we're doing that's really exciting is we're keeping track of the winners for the next, I think, another 3 or 4 weeks possibly. And we're going to have a major draw. 2 winners. One of the winners is going to win a free 800 series Yamaha guitar from Fantasy Music, and the other winner will win my favorite parlor guitars from G&G. The prize will be the Recording King Parlor. He's got several of them down there, and they're killer. I got one hanging on the wall over there. So the question tonight is, this is a bit of a difficult one. That people are just not, they're going to have to Google this, but I figure, what the hell? If there's bluegrassers in the crowd, they might know it right off the top of their head, but I had to look it up. I couldn't even remember it. What was the serial number of Tony Rice's 1935 D28 Martin guitar? The serial number of his. He actually put out a record this was the name of the record, the serial number. The serial number of Tony Rice's Martin. The Bone, they called it. D, 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 D. You're going to have to Google that one.
8675309.
No, it's not that.
Okay, I think we got a couple.
Okay.
So Michael O'Coin already won this year, right?
Yeah, he's one of the first winners. He can't have it.
So Eli Patrick Bluegrass.
Yes, what is it?
58957.
That's right. Okay, just a second. So Eli Patrick Bluegrass. So Eli, send me an email right now to you're going to win the fantasy pack. So you tonight won $25 gift certificate, strings and winder, and there's the tax in sale at the store. You can, I'll forward you on. So send an email to me right now, jpcormier38@gmail.com. jpcormier38@gmail.com. You've won the fantasy pack, and who's the second winner?
Kellen Donovan.
Kellen Donovan. How do you spell Kellen?
Kellen.
That's what I thought. Kellen, send an email to jpcormier38@gmail.com, and you've won the G&G package. Strings, winder, Levy's guitar strap, and $400 off any Boucher purchase, or a free pickup in a Boucher. So there you go. And you're both in the draw now for the double prizes. So that's 8 people we got now. Michael O'Coin, Jeffrey Cohen, Michael LeBlanc, John Delory, Catfish Creek, Jim Hanlon, Eli Patrick Bluegrass, and Kellen Donovan is now all entered. All 8 people. I think we're going to do another 2 more weeks. So we have 12 people. We'll draw on the third week and give the 2 guitars away. It's cool. So, thanks very much for being here with us on String Theory. Thanks to all our great partners that help us do this every week. And, yeah, if you want to send us a little dough, you can do that. You can watch us do crazy shit here all the time, every week. Things. We've designed a new show, right, Ginger?
Did we?
Yeah, stuff with things.
And people.
And people. And John. Keep your eyes out for upcoming reviews. I just put up the Yeri review yesterday. They're going to be reviewing the new Yamaha desktop acoustic amplifiers coming up. Plus one more Yeri, plus another Yamaha I'm going to do here.
Picker's grip.
Oh, and Picker's Grip. Yes, Picker's Grip is cool. So we're going to do that. I might even do that on the String Theory because it's so cool. Anyhow, thanks for everybody. Yes, and I'm going to add those guys to the list of partners, I believe, because it is really cool. I'll do that next week. I'll remember to do that. Picker's Grip. Picker Grip.